Akira Kitamura, the director of the first game, wanted to make a sequel to Mega Man, but there were some issues getting the green light, and some, like producer Takuro Fujiwara, were not open to the idea. Eventually, Kitamura went to Capcom's vice president and was given the okay to develop a sequel. As long as the team focused on other Capcom projects the company wanted them to work on. So the team would spend whatever free time they had working on the sequel. They were that committed to Mega Man and his world. Keiji Inafune said it best. So we, of our own accord, got together, spent our own time. We worked really hard, you know. Just 20-hour days to complete this. Probably in all my years of actually being in a video game company, that was the best time of my working at Capcom, because we were actually working towards a goal. We were laying it all on the line. We were doing what we wanted to do, and it really showed in the game, because it's a game, once again, that we put all our time and effort and love, so to speak, into it, designing it. Now initially, Inafune himself did not return for Mega Man 2. He was working on another project at this time. The production supervisor of the first Mega Man game invited him back, and this time he was more involved with the production process. I think this right here was the moment that kickstarted his eventual rise to becoming the shepherd of the franchise. Development time took 3 to 4 months, with the team reusing the Mega Man 1 gameplay system, while adding new things like new stage hazards and some cut content from the first game. They even got help from fans, which I'll explain later. All that work paid off as Mega Man 2 was released in Japan on December 24th, 1988 and June 2nd, 1989 in North America. It would go on to become the highest selling classic Mega Man game of all time, and as of this writing, it still is. Though that may change down the line. So let's go ahead and see how this game came to become one of Capcom's most popular titles. Before I get started on the game, I have to comment on the North American box art. Like the one for the first game, it's not an accurate representation of what to expect, though they are getting better. Mega Man is still an adult man with a gun, but at least his outfit is mostly accurate. He is joined this time by the 2 new robot masters of the game, Quickman and Crashman, though they look like supervillains in spandex compared to their actual robotic designs. And the guy behind Crashman? I assume that's supposed to be Dr. Wily. The design kind of resembles Sigmund Freud, rather than the person that actually inspired Wily's design, Albert Einstein. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people mistook this guy for Dr. Light, given that he has a beard. But no, Wily is the villain again. So let's quickly dig out the Anniversary Collection's manual and read the plot of Game 2. In the year 2000X, a super robot named Mega Man was created by Dr. Light to stop the evil desires of Dr. Wily. However, after his defeat, Dr. Wily created 8 of his own robots to counter Mega Man. Short, sweet, and to the point. There's a reason for this. The original manual for Mega Man 2 did not have a plot summary, and that's because the game itself explains the plot. After the opening text lays out what's at stake, the screen scrolls up a building until we see Mega Man without his helmet on the rooftop looking over the city. That image right here is a statement. The developers are telling us, prepare yourselves for an epic journey. Before I talk more about the title screen, let me go a little deeper into this story. It is unknown if Wily escaped justice, or Mega Man's little slap on the wrist didn't take. Regardless, he is back with his own robot masters designed specifically to target Mega Man, and some of them are upgrades to the robot masters from the first game. I'll point out which ones as we go through each of their stages. Back to the title screen. You'll notice that there's the option to choose the game's difficulty. The normal option is the easy mode that was made for the benefit of Western gamers. The difficult option is the original Japanese difficulty. In normal mode, Mega Man's attacks cause double damage against the bosses, and enemies' health is cut by half. I like this, because it gives new and casual players a chance to play the game with little to no stress, and veterans can tackle the difficult mode for that harder challenge. Since I've always played on normal mode, that's the version I will be showing in this retrospective. Whatever difficulty you choose, Mega Man helmets up and heads off to save the world again. Instead of going straight to the Robot Master Select screen, the game gives players another choice. Start the game from the beginning, or input a password and jump ahead a bit. The password system is one of the new mechanics the team brought to the series, and it's a welcome one. Back in the first game, you're expected to play the entire campaign in one sitting. It's doable if you have enough time to spare. Otherwise, every time you turn on that game, you always start from the beginning. And if you have life stuff, you have to either turn off your console, or if you want to continue, leave the system on and hope there are no power issues until you get back. The password system is a relief from that stress, and it's very easy to use. Every time you beat a Robot Master, you're given a password in the form of these red dots arranged in a grid. Back then, you'd get a sheet of paper and copy exactly what you see on the screen. Thankfully, you're given plenty of time to do so. Now, if you want to, you can quit the game and do whatever life stuff you need to do. When you return, just enter the password and you'll be back to where you were. These days, it's easier to look up the passwords online if you want to start the game at a certain point. You can even go to the Wily Fortress with the right password. I should point out that if you do so, it'll take you to the first Wily stage. The password system won't allow you to go any further than that. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Mega Man's gameplay is exactly the same as his previous game. You go through each level, defeat a Robot Master, get their weapon, and repeat until they're all defeated. Again, it makes sense given the team had a short development window. And the rock, paper, scissors method is a unique element of the franchise, so might as well keep it. Starting with this game, after defeating a Robot Master, we are taken to what I like to call the Weapon Get screen. It's where you're told what weapon you got, along with the color Mega Man will be. And Mega Man looks sad here, probably because he has to kill more robots to stop Wily. Like in the first game, Mega Man will have access to support items, 3 of them in fact. Thankfully, the process of getting them is much easier compared to getting the magnet beam. When you defeat certain Robot Masters, the normal weapon get screen would be interrupted by a message from Dr. Light, saying a certain item is ready for Mega Man to use. And then it's yours, just like that. I'll talk more about the support items as we go along. 1-ups and energy pickups make a return, but if you notice, the health and weapon pickups look different compared to the first game. Health now resembles a circle, and weapon has a hexagonal shape. That's what I got based on the sprites. Other than that, they serve the exact same function as the previous game. Again, size determines how much energy Mega Man gets, along with the weapon energy color matching the current weapon. These will be the designs of the energy pickups for the remainder of the 8-bit games. A new item introduced in this game that will become a series staple is the Energy Tank, or E-Tank. These cylinders will completely refill Mega Man's health, very useful in situations when fighting tougher enemies or bosses. Unlike the regular energy pickups, you find these in the stage, pick them up, and you hold on to them until you need them. In this game, Mega Man can carry only up to 4 E-Tanks at a time. They're also kinda rare, and sometimes you have to go out of your way to collect them. But if you spot one, and if you aren't already maxed out, try and get it. What adds to the rarity of these things is, unlike the first game, you cannot revisit completed stages, so you can't just farm E-Tanks in spots you can easily reach. Don't worry, there are plenty of opportunities to get E-Tanks throughout the game. Plus, there is a way you can start the game with a full complement of E-Tanks. I'm referring to, once again, the password system. There are 2 downsides when collecting E-Tanks. 1. If you lose all your lives, get a game over, and then continue, you lose any E-Tanks you have in your possession. And 2. You can accidentally use an E-Tank even when Mega Man's health is full. It has happened to me, and I would get frustrated that I wasted such a rare item. But in general, E-Tanks are a welcome addition to the series, and are very helpful for the challenges ahead. Like in the first game, we have a selection of Robot Masters to choose from, now bumped up to the series standard of 8, and having profile pics in the windows. Their full body shots won't be revealed until they're selected. So let's start off with my first pick, Metal Man. His stage mainly consists of conveyor belts, crushing spikes that thankfully aren't insta-kill, and a lot of these drill enemies called moles. They constantly respawn, meaning they're a great source of energy and lives, and if you choose this level first, you can easily score your first E-Tank. There is a second one, but in order to get it, you will either have to sacrifice a life, or use a certain item if you come here later. Metal Man is actually one of the upgraded Robot Masters I mentioned earlier, in this case, Cut Man, as in they both throw sharp cutting tools as weapons. The difference is Cut Man's weapon was originally used for timber felling. Metal Man's is designed to tear straight into Mega Man. The boss fight isn't too bad. Metal Man stays on the opposite side of the room while jumping and tossing his blades. And the only nuisance is the conveyor belt in the room. Ultimately, Metal Man shouldn't be a problem, especially with the E-Tank's safety net. Our reward for defeating him are the Metal Blades, the best weapon of the entire game, if not the entire series. Not only does it use little energy, Mega Man can fire it in multiple directions. It comes in handy when dealing with enemies from above. So from this point forward, Metal Blades will become my primary weapon. However, there are enemies that will be immune to them, like the returning Sniper Joe's shields and the mechs they ride on. And for the record, their names are returning Sniper Joes. They're like the Sniper Joes of the previous game, but yellow. Except they're more orange-pinkish in the game itself. That's NES graphical limitations for ya. Another enemy the Metal Blades don't work against are the Neo-Metals while they're crouched down. By the way, they're called the Neo-Metals because now the helmet enemies have little feet to move around while shooting at Mega Man. Back to the Metal Blades. I understand the need for some limitations. We need a chance to showcase the other game's weapons. Trust me, they will have their moments. Now, a few of the Robot Masters are vulnerable to this weapon, but whenever I play the game, I usually choose Bubble Man as my next target. Being the first water-themed Robot Master of the series, his level certainly reflects this. Now, Iceman's level from the first game had water, but it was in one brief section near the beginning, and a small puddle here. Most of it was Mega Man slipping and sliding. Bubble Man's stage has Mega Man traverse mostly through watery sections, and fighting the aquatic robots that occupy them. Also, insta-kill spikes. Lots and lots of insta-kill spikes. Bubble Man must love them because they're in the ceiling of his boss room. It's due to the fact that Mega Man can jump higher while underwater, for some reason, and the developers wanted an obstacle so players don't overdo this mechanic. Now don't worry about the spikes in Bubble Man's room. A few shots of Metal Blade will quickly take him out. And we are rewarded with Bubble Lead. Honestly, it's one of the few so-so weapons, as once fired, it travels along the floor. Okay, Bubble Lead has some uses. It can take out certain enemies like the springers that slide back and forth on the ground. It is the weakness of a Robot Master that I'll show off soon. To jump ahead a bit, in one of the Wily stages, Bubble Lead can be used to reveal illusionary floors, and there is one more use for the weapon, but I'll save it for the end. Alright, let's continue on, and my next Robot Master is Woodman. One notable thing about this stage is it debuts a new recurring Mega Man enemy, the Batons. These robotic bats rest above in a ball form that's impervious to any form of weaponry. Only when they open up and go after Mega Man that they are vulnerable to attack. This brings us to Woodman. He surrounds himself with a shield made of leaves, which he throws directly at Mega Man. At the same time, he tosses up more leaves that'll slowly float to the ground, though those can be easily dodged. Metal Blades do well against him, but he's actually weak to a different weapon, which I don't have at the moment. Defeating him nets us the Leaf Shield, the first proper shield weapon. Sure, Firestorm produced a shield, but it was a side effect of shooting a weapon, and it only lasted a couple of seconds. Leaf Shield though, activate it once, and it can last indefinitely, as long as you're standing still, or larger enemies don't come into contact with you. Push the D-pad in any direction, and off it goes as an attack. You can use it to farm off smaller enemies like the ever-respawning tellies. Otherwise, it's an okay ability. I'm only saying this because there will be better shield weapons in the future. It is the weakness of this Robot Master, Airman, so let's go after him next. This stage mostly consists of a series of platforms hovering high in the sky. And by platforms, I mean these giant robot heads called goblins, or air tikis. The challenge from these guys involve waiting for their horns to move down before proceeding. Yeah, they can hurt you if you touch them. Plus, there are the mini goblins that come out of the big head that add to the headache. Speaking of headaches, let's talk about Airman. His design is not like any Robot Master we've seen so far. He has no head, and his face is located on his chest. Future games will have enemies with similar looks, thus I will label it the Airman design. As for the Robot Master himself, while Leaf Shield is his weakness, using it against him can be tricky. He fires his own weapon, which pushes Mega Man back, while at the same time trying to damage him. And it can block Leaf Shield, so the trick is finding an opening to strike back. For beating Airman, we get his Air Shooter. Besides being the weakness to another Robot Master, it can quickly take care of the sniper armors the Joes ride, but it's not effective against their shields. In addition to Air Shooter, we are rewarded with our first support item. Item 2 to be precise. It's a rocket board that Mega Man can use to ride over the more hazardous parts of a stage. Perfect for our next destination, the stage of Heat Man. Our three main dangers here are the ever-responding enemies, especially the tellies, the molten steel or lava or whatever that stuff is. It's insta-kill, so don't touch it. And the return of the appearing blocks. And this time, a lot of them are placed along these columns that you cannot get past unless you time it correctly. Note that some of these columns have sections that are completely different than the others. We'll come back to that later. The stage has one notorious section where the appearing blocks appear and disappear over a bottomless pit. I could time my jumps and make it across carefully, or I could just bring out item 2 and say, screw you blocks. You're beginning to see why I went the way I did. I went after the metal blades to make my fight against Woodman easier, so I can get Leaf Shield to use against Airman, so I can get item 2 for this stage. There was actually a song dedicated to this strategy called Airman ga Tatsune, or I Cannot Defeat Airman. Look it up when you get the chance. Where does Bubble Man fit into all this? Mega Man players should already know this, but if you haven't figured it out by now, Bubble Lead is Heat Man's weakness. Be careful when you attack him, he'll heat up and dash towards you. Just jump over him and dodge his other attacks and you'll be fine. Heat Man is another of the upgraded Robot Masters, obviously based off of Fireman. Wily must have a sense of humor to design Heat Man to resemble a lighter. Atomic Fire has Mega Man shoot a fire blast. However, if you hold down the fire button, you can charge it up and fire a stronger blast. Well, that's an interesting concept, one that should be explored in a future game. Ahem. Atomic Fire is also the true weakness of Woodman. I don't think I need to explain why. You're also rewarded with another support item, Item 1. It allows Mega Man to create up to 3 temporary platforms that can help him get over walls or traverse large gaps. For my next target, I will choose Crash Man. His stage is interesting in that you have Mega Man ascending vertically to proceed. The main methods are these moving platforms you have to stand on so you can reach the ladder on the top, or if you time it just right, you can use Item 1. And there's a lot of ladder climbing. What doesn't help are the enemy placements. Here's a bit of advice. When you get to the point where you can either climb to the left or the right, go left. You'll score another E-Tank, and if you use Item 1, you can continue going up the left side and score a 1-up. Crash Man is an interesting Robot Master. He's the first one that doesn't have hands, and he won't be the last. Instead, there are 2 dispensers for his weapons. He's another Robot Master that's an improvement of the light Robot Masters. This time, a combination of Bomb Man and Guts Man. I guess for more powerful explosions? Another thing about Crash Man is his name. Like Dr. Light, there's the L to R localization issue. Sometimes he's known as Crash Man, other times Clash Man. Personally, I prefer Crash Man. Plus, the Complete Works calls him that. Well, he's going to come crashing down when I take him out with his weakness, Air Shooter. And so, we get Crash Bomber. You shoot it, and it'll stick to its target for a moment before detonation. Remember those odd wall sections from earlier? Only Crash Bomber can destroy them, which can open up alternate paths and unblocks useful items. Perfect for our next destination, Flash Man. Thanks to its crystal aesthetic, Mega Man will be slipping and sliding. I'd say there's less traction here than an Iceman stage. As I said, we can use Crash Bomber to destroy these bombable walls along this upper area right here. You can reach it thanks to Item 1. This will allow Mega Man to take a route that will bypass all of those Mecha Joes, provided you can successfully platform on these blocks without sliding off. And you're rewarded with another E-Tank and easy access to the boss. Flash Man is a joke. Some quick Metal Blade action and he's done. I'm serious, you can destroy him before he even fires off his special weapon, Time Stopper. When we get it, it allows Mega Man to stop time, freezing enemies and obstacles as long as there's enough energy to spare. Once turned on, you cannot turn it off until all the energy is gone. Mega Man cannot fire his ordinary weapon, nor switch to a different one while in use. So it's kinda limited. It can be useful as we head for our final Robot Master, but before we get to him, we have to claim our final support unit. Item 3 is a crawling platform that can be used as an elevator of sorts when attached to a wall. I do have to say, a nice little detail about these items is that you can actually see the numbers on them. Just thought I'd point it out. Alright, time for our final robot master, Quickman. Hold on a second, is the boomerang on his forehead breaching the profile square? And what's with the birds replacing the stars during the Robot Master intro screen? Okay, the second one was my doing. By holding down the A and B button and then pressing start on the highlighted Robot Master, you can change the stars into birds. That's something nice to look at because, as we'll soon see, Quickman stage is anything but nice. Mega Man descends downward, and while doing so, he'll have to avoid the insta-kill lasers. And you'll have to be fast and pixel perfect with these sections, especially when dealing with several screens of them. This is where Time Stopper shines, as it prevents the insta-kill lasers from appearing. There's even weapon energy along the way to refill it. If you do it this way, you'll be at a slight disadvantage against Quickman. Unless you're willing to farm energy by fighting a group of Sniper Joes that are in front of the boss door. Yeah, no thanks. Even then, Time Stopper only partially works against Quickman, taking off only half his health. So what I do is either use the Mega Buster or his other weakness, Crash Bomber, to whittle his health down to about half, then unleash Time Stopper until he explodes. We are rewarded with our final weapon of the game, Quick Boomerang. You're just firing a bunch of boomerangs in rapid succession. And that's all. After defeating the final Robot Master, we're automatically treated to a cutscene of Wily flying off in his UFO and going to his base. I never really commented on Wily's choice of vehicle before now. It's been redesigned into its more well-known look compared to the one from the first game. Seriously, it doesn't look like he can fit inside that thing. At least not comfortably. In-universe, it would make sense for him to have a new saucer, given the previous one docked with Wily Machine 1, and was presumed destroyed along with it. Besides, this saucer's more iconic anyway. Wily's second fortress presents more series firsts, so let's go ahead and list them off. For the first time, we can actually see Wily's fortress in-game rather than on box arts and or manuals, and it introduces us to Wily's skull motif. There is another purpose for showing us this fortress. Before starting each stage, a path appears going from point A to point B. It's the game's way of saying, here's the path you're taking to reach this stage's boss. As you continue from stage to stage, the path will expand until you reach the stage with Wily, represented by, of course, a skull. Wily Stage 1 showcases the usage of the support items, especially at this section. It ends with a series of platforming blocks that'll soon transition into an auto-scrolling section. Then the boss of the stage, Mecha Dragon, chases Mega Man until he reaches these 3 blocks for a proper fight. I am grateful the development team fixed Mega Man's traction issue from the previous game. It makes platforming tight and precise, and if anything happens to Mega Man, it would be my fault. When fighting Mecha Dragon, stand on the top platform and go to town on it with Quick Boomerang. If a fireball hits you, you'll be knocked back to the second block on the right, and you can use the invincibility frames to get back to the top block and continue to fire on him. Eventually, you'll slay the dragon. Wily Stage 2 has a section where you must use Item 2 to traverse an area full of insta-kill spikes. And if you get off at the right time, you can go down a path where you can pick up some goodies, including an E-Tank. At the end of the stage, you'll fall down to this room where the boss, the Pico Pico-kun, awaits. The room is filled with blocks that will form into mini robots to attack Mega Man. I generally use metal blades to deal with them since the mini bots can approach from different directions. Don't worry about the floor areas where the blocks once occupied. They don't become bombless pits, though that was the original plan. Wily Stage 3 has Mega Man going through water of questionable color, which is also laced with insta-kill spikes. Goody. The boss at the end is the enormous Guts Tank, or Guts Dozer. What's with Wily's obsession with Guts Man? First, there were the statue/incomplete copies from the first game, and now this machine that bears Guts Man's likeness. And spoilers, this will not be the end of Wily's Guts Man obsession. All you gotta do is hop on the Dozer tank and shoot quick boomerangs to take it out. Wily Stage 4. Not only does it reuse Crash Man's platforming gimmicks, it has, in my opinion, the hardest stage boss in the entire game, the Boo Beam Trap. These turrets will fire homing shots at Mega Man, and the only way to defeat them is with Crash Bomber. But get this, 2 of the turrets are behind bombable walls that require Crash Bomber to destroy. So between that and the number of turrets in the room, if you enter with Crash Bomber at full energy, you have just enough to beat the boss. Basically, it's a puzzle boss. If you screw up just once, that's it. You're done. Might as well let the boss kill you. Thankfully, the developers show some mercy in 2 ways. First, if you have extra lives, you'll respawn at the stage's midpoint, and while you do have to traverse your way back to the boss, you'll get the opportunity to refill your Crash Bomber energy. And second, while any destroyed turrets return intact, the bombable walls you destroyed previously do not. So if you are having a hard time with this boss, here's what you can do if you have the lives to spare. Use round 1 to destroy most if not all of the bombable walls. Then get yourself killed. Refill Crash Bomber using the respawning tellies. That's what they're there for. And when you return for round 2, you'll be able to move around easier and take out the boss. And when in doubt, use an E-Tank if you need to. Wily Stage 5 has another series first, a proper boss rush. In the first game, Robot Master refights were either spread out in a stage or in a continuous marathon. Here, Mega Man's in a room with 8 teleporters. Entering one sends him to another room for a Robot Master refight. For each one we defeat again, we are rewarded with a large health pickup, which is good for those who do not have E-Tanks or are saving them for the tougher fights. Here's a fun little tidbit. The middle teleporter on the right column takes you to Metal Man. Do you want to know what he's weak against? Allow me to show you. Yep, his own weapon. 1 hit kills him. In normal mode, it takes 2 in difficult. I apologize to Flashman. This is a joke. Then again, Metal Man's not the only one to have an odd reaction to his own weapon. For instance, shooting atomic fire at Heatman can actually refill his health. When all the Robot Masters are defeated again, a new capsule will appear, and it will take Mega Man straight to Wily Machine 2. If you've saved up enough atomic fire energy, 1 fully charged shot will take care of the first phase. And I just used Metal Blades for phase 2 since I'm not going to be using them again. I think it's a fitting send-off. Soon Wily will be defeated again and nope! He literally pulls the ground from under Mega Man. We have 1 more stage to go through, but thankfully it's short. The only hazards are these drops of lava or acid, and all you have to do is hold right and they'll never touch you. Alright, time for the true final battle, and Wily is an alien? Of course, it all makes sense now. He flies around in a UFO, and he's probably using mankind's own technology against them in order to take over the world, either for himself or for his people. He didn't count on one scientist transforming his own helper bot into a super fighting robot. The fight against the alien is simple. He moves around in an infinity pattern while trying to shoot at Mega Man, and those attacks can pack a punch. So hopefully your dodging skills are good, and if you have any E-Tanks left, use them. The only weapon he's vulnerable to is Bubble Lead. Told you it would come back at the end. He's immune to everything else, and if you use Atomic Fire, like Heatman, it will heal him. Alright, it's time to put an end to this invader's reign of terror, and... well, it seems the alien is a hologram controlled by the real Dr. Wily. His plan spoiled for a second time, he's once again reduced to begging for forgiveness. So what will Mega Man do this time? Why, leave him behind so he can go for a walk? And it must have been a long walk since the seasons keep changing around him, along with his weapon colors. There have been a number of interpretations regarding this scene, but I like to think Mega Man's reflecting on all the actions he had to take against his own kind, and can true peace ever be obtained as long as those like Wily exist? Oh, Mega Man, you're not gonna like the future. And with that, the credits roll, and in yet another series first, we are shown the Robot Master's serial numbers, along with those who initially designed them. This is the help from the fans I spoke of earlier. They would send in designs for potential Robot Masters, the team would pick which ones they liked the best, and then redesign them to better fit the Mega Man aesthetic. And I do like that the team gave them some credit. Mega Man 2 does everything right in a sequel. It takes what worked from the first game and improve upon it, while getting rid of what didn't work. Seriously, the first game's scoring system was worthless, and I'm glad they ditched it. It also established a number of series mainstays, and there's also the replayability factor. For instance, instead of going the way I showed you, I could have gone Metal Man, then Wood Man, Airman, Crash Man, and then used Crash Bomber against the pillars in Heat Man stage. And that's just one of many other pathways you can take in this game. Something I didn't get to is that in yet another series first, there are larger enemies in the stage that won't allow Mega Man to proceed unless you defeat them. While simple here, future games will make them more complex. Overall, the game is a great entry point for newcomers to the franchise, but it was not mine. A later game would get me into the series. And then there's the music. Oh boy, the music. The majority of it was done by Takashi Taishi. You can thank this composer for some of the game's most iconic themes. Bubble Man, Woodman, Quickman, Wily stages 1 and 2, Need I go on? If you allow me to deviate for a bit, I like to share a personal story. Back in my younger days, before my gaming skills got better, I would rely on this thing, a Game Genie. For those who don't know, the Game Genie is a cheating device that allows you to enter codes related to a specific game to make the experience easier. NES games were notoriously difficult back in the day, and I would do anything to skip past level 1. When the Game Genie was used on Mega Man 2, a major side effect was the music would become all distorted and warped. The following are some clips of me playing the game with the Game Genie on. I'm warning you now, if you're wearing headphones, turn the volume down, as the following sounds might not be good for your ears. Okay, here we go. I think I've tortured your ears long enough. Mega Man 2 will be remembered as the game that galvanized the series and ensured that the Mega Man franchise will exist for years to come.